Holy moly, Batman. It's Monday Market 15, the 15-minute show that takes, I don't know, 30 minutes. We gave up a long time ago. So, Rob Morales, RCO Network here live at Studio 110, Phoenix, Arizona, with my special co-host, as always, Miss Ashley Miller. Hello, Ashley.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce our other co-host today?
I can. This is Corey Sheena.
He's
a bomb. He is a bomb diggity from Rocket Mortgage. He is, what do they say? Rocket Mortgage. My pun was so bad there. Oh my gosh. I had it in my head and I lost it.
Dude, there's so many puns for Rocket.
So many, and I lost it.
There used to be this hot dog cart over there on like Riggs and like Gilbert Road. These we call them the hot dog hookers, and part of their thing was like straddling a rocket on their business card because they sold hot dogs. You know, and it was they wore bikinis on the side of the road.
Hot dog, hot diggity dog.
So that's a story for another day.
You know that.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. You have kids.
100%.
Oh boy. So we're here on a Monday talking about real estate, not about hot dogs or rockets. Too much to each his own. But Miss Ashley, we have Corey here from Rocket Mortgage talking about some things he's got going on. Do you want to talk a little bit about Rocket real quick before we get started?
Yeah, I mean, first, thank you guys for having me. Welcome me to your humble abode.
Hello.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. Bomb diggity, I haven't been called that in years. So I feel right at home.
Bomb diggity.
No diggity, no doubt.
Ashley's stuck in the 80s somewhere.
I literally am.
Or no, that's more of a 90s thing.
It is definitely 90s.
Yeah, it's 90s.
Right.
Anyway, so go ahead.
No, I think it's kind of unique. I mean, one thing I will say is I met Robert and Ashley by total chance. I got to surfing the internet, found podcasts, found RCO Network, and we align a lot in the way which we think about business and working with people. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we appreciate you having on. Monday we do talk about real estate. So we've been talking over the last few weeks about transitioning out of the normal, like, these are the numbers. And I think every week to week, it's pretty much the same story, where buying a house is hard and selling a house is easy. I mean, that's pretty the overall thing of that. So we're trying to bring different aspects to that, and I appreciate Corey being on here. What he brings to the table today is a little bit different philosophy with Rocket, and I think the industry in a whole, and I'll let you guys chime in, is kind of shifting, right? When there's challenges, we kind of have to rethink differently, which is the mindset of an entrepreneur. So I know that Ashley's got some stuff going on that's different with Great American, but you have some stuff going on that's a little bit different with Rocket, right? Yeah,
100%. I do have a unique perspective. I've been with Rocket for 10 years, and unless you don't have cable television, I'm sure you've seen a Rocket commercial or 60. But background on us.
I legit don't have cable television.
You don't have cable?
I haven't had it in like 10 years.
That's interesting.
And that's a different market shift too. Is like people are going away from like paying for expensive cable and going like, I watch YouTube like crazy.
Mortgage.
Yeah. But anyway, so Rocket.
Yeah. So we're online lender, and a big part of what Rocket does is we're always innovating and we're always making what's great even better. And our current model is amazing, right? We won a lot of awards. We are renowned across the industry. But what we've started and what I'm a part of, and the reason why I reached out to Robert and Ashley, is it's called Rocket 360. Yeah, so this gives us the ability to work locally, smaller scale, almost like a local mom and pop type of shop that you could communicate with, that knows the neighborhood very well, and you communicate face to face with the backing of Rocket Mortgage that has the security, the safety, the technology, the speed, the product diversity, all the great things that come with Rocket Mortgage. So we're super pumped about it.
Yeah, and in a traditional sense, I think mortgage lending has always been kind of person to person. I saw this industry change like probably about 5 or 6 years ago, where there's kind of that distance. Like you don't necessarily, and I don't know if this is your experience, but as a lender, I don't see too many lenders like hanging out with their clients or people they do mortgages with, right? I mean, even title's the same way.
How rude!
Do you hang out with some of the people you do transactions with?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, I went to your wedding. You're coming to mine. We hang out, bro.
Oh, I meant for a transaction. Goofball.
No, and I get that. There are a lot of people that come through our doors because we do the paperwork, right? So my relationship is with you. My relationship is with Robert. It's not necessarily with the actual consumer.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah. No, I know. I just had to bust your chops. But yeah, we do, like, or we have lost sight of that relationship just because everything is becoming more digital. So I love this concept of Rocket 360. You guys are going to get a local office here in Kierland.
Yeah, that's the initial talk. So we're doing remote right now, but we're out in the field. You'll see us at a realtor's office, or we'll meet with you for coffee to talk about getting approved.
What if they don't like coffee? I'm just kidding.
You have to drink coffee. It's required.
So I think I have a big question, and this is, and you actually had mentioned this. Okay, so I'm a seller. I have equity in my property. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sell it. Let's just say I have, I don't know, $300,000, right? Where the hell am I going to go, and how are you going to help me?
It's a really good question.
Holy
that question fires me up.
That's loaded.
Yes.
I know, because
it's question fires me up. No, it reminds me of someone that I just recently helped, and I had a complete paradigm shift of what it's like to be a seller. So everybody that is a seller right now is getting letters in the mail, right? Your house is worth more than it's ever been. You have more equity than you've ever been. You should do a cash out refinance. You know, short of the people that love their house, like, don't move out of your house. Don't just move to move.
Right.
But if there's a small piece of you that's saying, I do want to move, it's always welcomed with, where the heck am I going to go? Mm-hmm. Or the market's crazy.
Right.
And the reason why it's welcome that is because you likely purchased your house for $450,000 3.5 years ago. And now you have to buy the same house for $800,000.
Right, yep.
So your eye level was $450, but now I'm telling you have to spend $800.
And I'm like, peace out, bro.
And that's where the conversation stops.
Yeah.
And where the person that we helped out a few weeks ago, they had a very similar situation. Yeah. We walked him through the math, because the mortgage is an amazing thing. Yes, it's debt. Yes, you have to pay it back. It's not compounding interest. You write it off on your taxes. But really, it's a vehicle to leverage debt when borrowing is cheap, to be able to do other things with your finances. So for this gentleman, he's very risk adverse. He's similar to me, where he doesn't want to go out and buy a bunch of crypto. He doesn't want to go out and buy a $2 million property. He wanted to get out of the city, and he wanted to get into a more rural area. So he made a bit of a lateral move. Okay. And when everything was said and done at the end of the day, he was left over with $300,000. That's after down payment and closing costs and buying the new house.
This is what I love about that, because one of the things I was talking about yesterday was, and I mentioned it to you, is a certain situation where an elderly couple wanted to move out of a property that they raise their kids in. It's just getting way too big. They're at that age. So the conversation would look something like this, in my opinion. Hey, sell your property. They can turn around and they can actually buy 2 properties. Right. One small enough for them because they can't maintain it. And they can buy another one that they can use as a rental so they can have the residual income, because they were talking about wanting to leave money to their family and all this. Well, just buy 2. You know, you sell your house for $600,000, buy 2 properties at $250, or, you know, like little condos, or they don't need much, right? Right. You get the math. The math, 1 + 1 always equals 2. Right. But now they're going to have a property that they can rent out. They're going to have a little extra cash in the bank. They're going to have 2 homes now to leave to their family once they leave this earth. And the mortgage is, they're going to have a mortgage, but it's going to be offset. They'll be able to pay it. So, I mean, there's so many scenarios.
Correct. It provides flexibility.
And you know what Violet did this weekend? We were not in the market to look at a house. We bought a house in October, and she saw a house up in Ahwatukee for $750. She's like, we gotta buy that one. Because they actually did an addition. They boxed out the 3rd car garage. They put in basically like a 1-bedroom apartment on the one side, and it almost looked like an Airbnb.
Airbnb it.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole idea. And she's like, we can rent that out for $1,200, you know, and that'll bring down our mortgage payment. She's already calculating the mortgage payments, and I'm like, we're not even in the other house yet. My hands still hurt from this weekend putting in doors and stuff.
Calluses.
But that's one way to leverage off of that is creating, you know, wealth as part of like purchasing these things and utilizing. Oh shit, Ashley's about
no, because you just reminded me of something. So I did help a really good friend of mine. Honestly, we were on the golf. I was on the golf course. One of the guys was an investor, and he's like, "Hey, do you know anybody who wants to buy in this neighborhood?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." Within 30 minutes. We had the whole contract put together, but it had a cute little separate place. His Airbnb, so his mortgage is 34 something, right? Some change. Right. His Airbnb, just in 1 month, has already paid not only for his mortgage and his boat and his car.
That's awesome.
There's ways to do it.
And that's the thing, right? You could rent out basically the house you're in, as long as you have a lease agreement. And to offset the mortgage payment on there and go buy another house, correct?
Yeah, 100%.
What's your opinion on like fourplexes? So like, or a duplex or a fourplex or whatever that may be. So they go into it when they want to finance that. How does that pan out? Like, how would you explain that? Because if I want to buy a fourplex and I want to live in it, it's owner occupied,
Right.
will you guys allow them to use the potential rental income as part of it to purchase it? Like, what is that scenario?
It's a good question. So a first-time home buyer, and our industry is a living and breathing thing, so these guidelines constantly change.
Yeah.
A first-time home buyer would not be able to leverage rent the way
Okay.
it's viewed by whomever makes the rule. Would be, they've never managed a rental before. Mortgages are never going to give you the benefit of the doubt for the best case scenario. It's always going to be counting for the worst case scenario. But if you have a history of managing rentals, or if you've owned within the last 3 years, then you could leverage the rental from some of the units to offset your debt to income ratio.
But what if you didn't want to live there?
If you didn't want to live there, then you can leverage future rent.
Okay.
We do what's called a 1007 appraisal, not to get too nerdy on the station here. But it basically,
yeah, let me write that.
it basically accounts for market rent. So the appraiser would say that your house is worth X, and you can also rent it out for Y, and we leverage that in qualifying you for the mortgage.
And that's a home loan. It's not necessarily just a loan.
Right.
And with a home loan, you're looking at, well, right now about 4.25%, 4.5%.
Depending when you watch this video.
Right,
It could change in the next hour, by the way.
I love that comment.
But leveraging off that versus a business loan, which I've seen business loans, depending on term, anywhere from like 12% to 19%. It might as well be a credit card.
Right.
And which is crazy. And that's where a lot of people, I think, should focus in, is trying to purchase a home through a home loan versus trying to do other things. And I think they're intimidated by a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's nobody's hobby necessarily to get a mortgage.
Yeah.
I don't talk to a lot of people that are pumped about the idea. But if you've never tried it in the past, I would say, 5 years, it's actually incredibly easy. When you a lot of the feedback I get is like, that's it? Like anything else? Like, yeah, blood sample, hair sample, you can turn that in later.
Yeah.
I think once you do it 4 or 5 times, or, go through a divorce and buy a couple more after that. Yeah, I think it's okay. You get a little comfortable.
For sure.
Not that I'm talking through personal experience.
So let's say somebody is not quite ready to purchase a home.
Right.
And they find an opportunity to do a rent-to-own scenario.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So the price is locked in.
Mm-hmm.
They have that agreement.
Yep.
How soon do they need to get pre-qualified before, let's say they live there a year, the agreement is a year, they can purchase at X amount of dollars. At what point should they get pre-qualified, and how long does that pre-qualification last? Like, can you lock them in? What does that look like?
It's a good question. In real estate and mortgages in general, it's always way better to be proactive rather than reactive. So personally, if I'm sitting in someone's shoes that's getting ready to enter a contract with a landlord, and if it's official contract, I'm having the conversation before I enter the contract, be forthcoming with the loan officer, and let them know I probably won't be taking out a loan for another 12 months. But getting pre-approved can take 15 minutes. It's a verbal conversation. Mm-hmm. To answer your question a little bit more directly, the approval itself is good for 90 days.
90 days, okay.
Yeah, so we're talking at the end of March. This would take you to the heart of the summer.
And then do you help them, let's say they're at a 580. I feel like that's such a score that a lot of people get stuck at sometimes.
Right.
During this
Why are you buying a house with 580 credit score?
Some people, they used to be able to buy a house at 580, but there was
how
a
many
point in
fees
time
you're getting
where
charged?
I had a 580 because I never had a credit card. I had a crap ton of medical debt.
Everybody's watching.
And I had to figure it out. So I opened up a bunch of secured credit cards and I finally got it back up. It was intense because we don't educate our children. This generation right now, they have zero freaking clue how to build their credit. So going back to the question, now they're like, okay, we have a 580, we're going to rent. You've already spoken with them. You've seen the contract because they're trusting, because having a team is super important.
For sure.
Do you guide them along that process to say, do you and your company have the knowledge to help them, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the cutoff right now, if you want to take out a mortgage, would be 580. So you hit that on the head.
Yes. I was right,
Nailed
man. I know my stuff.
Well, I mean, is there really a cutoff? Because Fannie and Freddie don't create that. I think it's the mortgage companies that create
Correct.
that.
So there are overlays, and then if you go below 580, I haven't been introduced to too many below 580 that, to your point, there becomes fees and non-conforming type of situations. But I can just speak for us personally. So we have a free credit service. I like that. It's designed to help someone buy a house. So you wouldn't just call us and say, hey, run my credit so I can work with your credit service. But we would basically make you look in a very positive light on a mortgage report rather than just like Credit Karma. And they look for easy, efficient, cost-efficient solutions. We run a couple simulations and we say, pay this bill down to X, do this, turn in the statement after you do it, and then we help you show the new credit score.
And then do you help them, like, say, like, go to Capital One? I know they'll do, like, secure credit card, and that will boost it. You said stimulation, so that's what it made me think of. Like, it'll boost it by 30 or...
Yeah, exactly. Open up Capital One, put a $30 balance on there, see your score go up by 30 points.
Not that we endorse Capital One, but...
No. But they are just well known for being the people that... They do the secured stuff. So, no, that's super awesome.
Yeah, and I want to. I guess I want to preface this by we're not financial advisors by any means, and and every individual situation is different. So reach out to Corey. You can reach out to Ashley. You can reach out to me if you have any specific questions regarding your scenario. It's not just a one kind of like for everybody. Just because you have a 580, you're like, oh, I'm gonna call them right now. You should call us but it doesn't necessarily mean you'll be qualified because there's so many other factors and stuff there too. So I just want to put that in there.
We are not financial advisors. We're speaking based upon experience.
Listen to us. You lose all your money.
What's your opinion on...
There we go.
I'm sorry. You had mentioned earlier, and do you want to show this, Robert, the inventory right now? Because you had said something about it wasn't necessarily the inventory shortage.
Am I showing that now? Okay,
yeah, if you want to show that. Oh, my hair looks like crap in this view.
Let me pull that back up. Highlight your point again. I hate when this thing refreshes and it knocks me off my screen.
Well, and Corey, you can share this. Like we have the same amount of listings.
There we go.
So
if you look at this chart, this basically highlights month-to-month listings in our market, on our Phoenix market. I had it set just to Maricopa, but roughly you can get the idea. Every January from 2012 has been roughly about 9,900, 9,800, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. We don't really get into a lower inventory other than 10,000 until you get into 2020, and then you start seeing a small dip. But relatively speaking, the difference between 2020 to 2021 and then 2021 to 2022 is only about 1,000 listings.
Yeah, not even.
And that's pretty much year over year. It's roughly the difference between. So we are listing as much as we have been in the past several years. So the market in itself is not necessarily a listing shortage. We're listing enough houses. It just overwhelming number of buyers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. So the story is inventory is light, too many buyers, hard to buy a house. But when you peel back the layers, as you just shown, the actual story is there's no carryover listings. So in a normalized real estate market, the homes that were listed in December, some of them will carry over to January, and then so on and so on. Right now, when a house gets listed, 5 days, and that's probably intentional by the listing agent, that it's going to be on the market for, and then it's gone because of all the attention. So basically what that means to you is it's not impossible, and it's not an inventory shortage, to your point. There's still people listing. It's more be prepared to act very quickly and make sure you're working with the right team that can get you there, and make sure you're working with people that are available Saturday and Sunday as well, because that's when all the action happens.
Yeah, I try to take Sundays off, but it never works.
Yeah.
I did showings on Sunday this weekend, and I was like a mess. I had all my work out. I had my grunge T-shirt on and everything, and so I was working in the house. But yeah, there is no day off for this stuff, and you really have to jump on every opportunity as it presents, because if you don't submit your contract right then and there, somebody else is going to do it for you.
Oh,
that's just the current environment right now. Yeah. Personally, we know this. You had the first shot, though. I will say you had.
Well, and that was going to be my next point that I was going to go to. So it's about the inventory. Talking to your neighbor, or not necessarily neighbors, but talking. Like, let's say there's a certain area you want to that's desired. Just start knocking on the doors. I mean, honestly, like, you don't know what's available unless you do your research. And realtors, they have access to MLS. They get to see what's available. But there's in my.
You're talking about pre-market, though.
Pre-market, yeah. I'm talking about somebody who didn't even think about selling their house until you knocked on the door, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they've thought about it, and then you get a realtor involved, and you execute that. But if you are desiring a certain neighborhood, there's going to be a little bit more legwork these days.
Yeah, I mean, creativity is the name of the game. Thinking inside the box is not a good way to navigate through the market. I mean, funny story. I had a client in San Diego, and the San Diego market is crazy. It has been crazy where you pull it up and there may be 0 listings.
Yeah.
He went for a walk with his wife one day, and they said, man, I really like that house. And they wrote a letter, and they dropped it into the seller's mailbox. That night they had wine with the seller.
FYI, that's completely illegal to drop mail in somebody's mailbox
maybe
in the state of Arizona.
I'm not a financial
Just
advisor.
so you know.
We don't tell people what to do. We just
tape it on their door.
Yeah,
on what they do. So.
But yeah, they had wine that night, and then by Monday they had a verbal agreement, and he's moving forward on the house. So
there's ways, and I love what you said, like creativity. Like we have to start to think outside of the box. Like if you drive by a house that's dilapidated, and you say the yard's overgrown, and the vehicles.
Oh, sorry, your house looks like shit. Can I buy it for real cheap?
But if you see it's older vehicles, it's overgrown, it's probably an older couple that's been there for a long time that really may not be paying attention to the market and has no idea they're sitting on $600,000.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, I could sell it for that much? And then, and then go buy a cute little condo and surprise, and now they have $400,000 to do, I don't know, travel or who knows what they want to do with that? Live with your family?
That's the question we were talking about before the show. It's like, well, where do you go in this environment where you sell a house and there's really no listings to go buy? I mean, I'm in that situation right now with one of my friends, and I helped her. That was actually my very first contract ever. Like 8 years ago was my first contract. And, I helped her buy the house. She's ready to sell. We have the listing agreement, but we can't find anything to buy. And she needs the money for certain expenses, and she has a little bit left over to purchase, but everything we're looking for under 100,000 is just like gone or not so great looking,
It's not.
So that's the biggest challenge I think in this environment is like, well, where do you go if you do sell?
Right.
Do you rent?
Morristown.
Do you go to Morristown because Morristown has really good cable apparently?
No,
really good internet.
I'm like obsessed with like these small
towns.
She's
obsessed about Morristown.
No, I'm just like I love little like trying to find little small towns that have land.
Right.
I'm like just freaking buy. And I've been so regretful that I saw a property out in that area and I was like, oh gosh, I don't have a lot of money right now, and so I didn't buy, and I regret every second of it because our intuition is our superpower.
Yeah.
Like it really is. So if you're intuitive and you have that feeling, that gut feeling, knock on that door and ask them to sell their house.
Well, I have some stocks that I need to ask you about your intuition with that really sucked for me.
I am not a financial advisor. I can talk about land, but ask me about the stock market.
Well, as we're in the last few minutes of the show, I did want to post some information because we're here to bring you information about the local market. It's again pretty much every week to week it's the same. Like we were talking before the show, it's a mule. It moves at a very slow pace, and so a lot of the data, a lot of the information is going to be historic. It's going to be trailing about 30 to 60 days. There's stuff in the labor statistics that are posted like 6 months ago, and they're like, oh wow, that's really interesting for like back in July. But it has no relevant information now. All we can do is make predictions and talk about kind of the future. But I did want to show our current market conditions, and we've been watching this every week, like we have been. Demand index has been creeping back to a balanced market. That's what the demand in here. Remember, green does not mean good. Green means that there are too many buyers, and and red means we're not so fewer buyers. So we want that kind of yellow balanced market. Supply index, we're just short supply. I mean, that's green means too little houses, red means too many houses, so we want that balanced market, and that's why the market index is seller's market. That's easy to say, but again, that demand index is creeping back, and I don't know if you see that on the mortgage side. I definitely see it on my side where people are like, well, I'm not going to buy now. A lot of the hesitation is more emotional, which is pretty much every market. I mean, that's stock markets. When you're investing in money and you're just a lay person and you're not like a millionaire or have millions of dollars just coming in, you get a little hesitant on, the maybe $5,000 or even $500 in your bank account. Like, well, I want to buy a house, but I only got $500.
Is that how they talk?
It's like, could I get a down payment assistance program, Corey? And I hear that a lot, down payment assistance. But, people are very conscientious when it comes to their money and how they spend it. And little do they realize that leveraging off a home is a significant value, short-term and long-term. But the bottom line is you got to work on your credit. But are you seeing industry changes, on your side as far as buyers go, or what's some insight on buyers for you?
I mean, just to piggyback off what you said, we see it a lot where you get in the cycle of rent, and the reason why someone would want to be very careful with the amount of cash that they have is because they've been on the cycle for a certain period of time. And not to say that circumstances can change for everybody, right? But as far as lending guidelines, I would say going through a pandemic environment for the first 2 years of the pandemic, or the last 2 years, was definitely a roller coaster. Things got very strict all of a sudden. Programs went away. And then I would say like late to mid last year, they all started coming back. And now we're in an environment where I won't say like everything is on the table because it's still a regulated industry. We don't want what happened in 2008, 2009. But there's a lot more coming on the table. Whereas before it was not allowed, now it is allowed. And before you couldn't do it, and now you can do it. So again, it's a living and breathing thing. And I would say the environment of lending right now is a good one.
What have you heard anything? I don't know if you've heard anything, Ashley, but the 40-year mortgage, is that a thing? Is that something that's been talked about?
Way back in the day.
But I'm talking but it's not very apparent today.
I haven't heard about it since like 2007, 8.
Well, because our median price in Arizona has gone up from like what, 250 years ago to now 460, 480.
Right.
Yeah. And people who are quote unquote normal people can't afford to buy a house anymore. So one way to do that is stretch out the term. So a 30-year fixed mortgage into a 40-year. I don't know if there's any updates regarding that, or if you heard any more about that.
40-year has not been on my radar. Things that have been on my radar, we have bridge loan that may be coming to light because we have a lot of sellers that can't compete necessarily because they're in a tough spot with a contingency, and usually the other seller doesn't want to have to rely on their buyer to perform. Renovation mortgage is not back yet. We had it and then the pandemic hit, and hopefully we get it back, because a lot of feedback I get, especially in like Scottsdale, is I'll spend the money, I'm happy to, I like the area, but this stuff is old, or this property is old.
It is, yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to see that.
Well, there was stuff on those renovation loans that you were capped out, right? And most of it was FHA?
Yeah, this wouldn't be FHA.
They have VA renovation loans, but you're capped out at $30,000. Yeah. FHA, I think you're capped out at like 50 something for FHA.
Yeah, this one didn't have a cap as long as your plan with an approved contractor was valuable enough for what you're proposing.
Okay.
Yeah, which is awesome.
I know, I'm so bad. But I have a few more things.
I have other stuff too. I was just wondering. I just wanted to give you some floor time.
With the person that may, they could sell their property, but their credit is just not great to repurchase a property.
Yeah.
Have you put them in a position to where they could potentially refi to pay off debt? I don't know if this is possible. This just ran through my head.
Sure.
Pay off debt, but then obviously when you refi, you can only do your loan to value can be 80-20.
Right.
So they pay off the debt, they raise their credit, they sell their house, they take out that extra 20% equity, and they turn around and buy. Is that a possibility? Because you talked about being creative. I'm just once you said that, my mind's going, how can we help these people think outside of the box?
So the way in which we would help there is by having the conversation, number one, I would say, because that's a great situation where you should absolutely call someone like me, where you could then lay out the framework before you contact an agent to go over a listing appointment, or before you start looking at properties. In that scenario, we probably would look at an unsecured loan, depending on how much debt there is to pay, and not tie it to the mortgage. Generally, we want to know you're going to be in the house for 12 months past the refinance. Okay. It's not necessarily a law. We're not going to send someone out to your house to peer through the window.
There's no loan police that I'm aware of.
Right. But with that, I would probably recommend you can get funding in like 24 hours, up to $40,000 to consolidate debt,
and then
see the game plan through, and then sell the property and pay off that.
And then they have good enough credit, and then you can turn around and you can do the purchase for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, make up with your mom, make up with your sister, move in with them, because there's no place to buy. But you'll have money to buy when you're ready to go.
Do you guys?
No, I know.
You guys do land loans?
We do not offer loans against land right now.
Okay. Yeah. Who would you recommend? Like, do you guys have like a person, like when you can't do something like a land loan? Because I've noticed a lot of people, like my brother-in-law's dad. He's going to sell his property. And he literally just wants to buy a piece of land and put, I'm not joking you, an RV on it. Like, that's what he wants to do. He's so over this market, like way out in Tonopah.
Right.
And so I'm trying to find him somebody who, I'm trying to find
You don't want to buy that land in Vernon? I got some land up in Vernon.
But he needs 4 acres. So
and a mule.
And a mule. Jesus.
Give him about 40 acres and a mule.
I actually might look into that.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Corey.
No, but do you, so if there is something without, like, I know you said you love putting the piece of the puzzle together, you're very creative, outside the box. When something comes up like land, because you guys just don't do it,
right?
Do you have a referral source? Because I know you mentioned having an awesome team is really important, like a great title company. A great realtor.
I wonder who you're talking about.
I don't know.
Great American, maybe?
Do you have those, like, those referrals, like, set in the place of people you know, like, trust, that have really been, you know, just part of your...
Yeah.
You're not necessarily your team, but they're your people.
That's a great question. The way I would answer that is Rocket Mortgage, we've been in business for 36 going on 37 years. And our leadership, we make decisions with huge partnerships. Like, we partner with the NFL. We partner with Charles Schwab. We partner with a company called Rapid Finance that helps with collateral for business. Where this new thing that we're doing called Rocket 360, we're able to make smaller level partnerships with people that are more local. So to answer your question, nobody yet, but if you know somebody, or if you want to give me a call, I'd love to partner up with somebody, because these things come up a lot where I would like to say, Robert Morales does a great job, X, Y, and
Who's
Z.
that?
And he has land in Vernon.
I have land in Vernon if you want to.
I don't even know where that's at.
It's about an hour away from the New Mexico border, like on the way to Show Low.
Oh, geez Louise.
Hey, but
You're
it's...
riding Show Low. We're riding Show Low.
We got to cut her off. What's in that? What is this?
That's cucumber lime Gatorade. It's my new obsession.
Oh boy. Anyway, some last. We're over our time about 2 minutes, so I'm going to bring up some last slides here. Month supply is about the same, about half a month supply. We got about 0.6 months. So if we were to sell all the houses out of Phoenix, we'd finish up in just 2 weeks. That's how short of supply we got. Also, because everybody asks, what's the rate right now? So what is the rate, sir? Roughly.
Great question. Depending on when you watch the video, like we talked about, you're going to be, here's the way I would describe the environment that we're in. For the first time, and things can change because there's a lot of unforeseen things that affect interest rates. It's not just what the Fed says. But for the first time, we're getting a lot of direct feedback from the Fed. Inflation is the hottest topic right now. You guys are aware of that. And unfortunately, it is where it is. So on the table this year, there's 7 rate hikes. I hope that we don't see all 7 to fruition, but Fed Chairman Powell is on record today saying we'll do whatever's possible to combat inflation.
A question came up: will you is a point, half a point off the table? And he said it's not off the table,
right?
Or something relative like that. He did say that, relatively speaking, half a point increase isn't off, off the table.
Right. The way I describe it, with that much confidence in the Fed's game plan to combat inflation, is everything is on sale right now when it comes to interest rates.
Everything is on sale.
Meaning if you're in the ability to lock, and 2 years down the road, if it does take a dip, that's why you have a refinance.
And 4.5 is still a good rate. I mean, it's not 3.5. It's not 3 like it was, a year ago. Or I think 2.75 was the cheapest.
I bought my first house at like 8.5%.
Right.
8.5.
It was also like $200,000 cheaper.
It was $200,000 cheaper.
But that's
it's
a difficulty.
Relative. It's all relative.
So if you do, the last chart I had brought up was the 10-year Treasury. So this is loosely based off the interest rate. So if you want to know a trajectory of where interest rates are going, and you don't believe us, follow the 10-year Treasury, because if you draw a line here, if you just kind of look here, where do you think that interest rate is going? Sir, where do you think that interest rate is going, sir?
It's going to be north.
It's going north. It's going up. So right now we're looking at...
That's where you should buy land.
In Morristown.
In Morristown. No, that's not north. That's west.
I don't know. But we're definitely over on our time. Is there any last-minute things you want to mention, Corey? I mean, for me, like I said, a lot of this business is relationships. So if you're an agent, if you're a lender, or even a title person that wants to get in the business, it really connects. It really makes sense to have relationships. I stopped calling clients. They're just friends.
That's what I say.
And you have to have a different mindset when it comes to the people you serve. And so for me, in this business, it's really about helping, way before profits. This business is very profitable at the end of the day, and it is very aspiring to see somebody go and make, several $100,000, if not, six-figure income off this career. But it takes a lot of work. And you have to always preface it with a relationship. That's why you were invited here to the show, because we aligned with that. But is there anything that you wanted to share of yourself personally, or anything that is on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the floor for that. I started with Rocket 10 years ago, and we were talking about philosophy and how it aligns. One of those philosophies that we live by at Rocket is money and numbers follow, they do not lead. meaning you don't chase a commission check. You don't chase the end result of getting a sales contract on a house for your own benefit. You start with the things that impact someone's life on the ground level, and everything else follows. And I think that leads to building a lot of trust with folks. I can say with being in the industry for 10 years, I'm a lot different person than when I had started, meaning from a lot of different perspectives. But being able to be in this type of environment for 10 years and start this brand new thing that's a little bit more local coming into January gets me super excited to hang out with people like you guys and talk about business and philosophy. And
us old people, because Corey's 30 years old, for God's sakes.
He's 31.
We're in our 40s, man.
I do want to mention, though, you can do it in multiple states.
Yeah.
Not just Arizona. So if
Right.
anybody that's watching this that's in another state, what are your main focuses that you are comfortable and familiar with?
So I'm licensed in 30 states. That's where I've been operating out over the last 10 years. And then I've been specializing locally, meaning like meeting face-to-face in Florida, Michigan, and Arizona.
Perfect.
But I want to thank everybody for coming on. Miss Miller,
So welcome.
Great American Title. Corey Sheena, Rocket Mortgage, Rob Morales, RCO Network. We're all here to bring you information about the Monday market. 15 took about 37 minutes today.
Oh, jeez.
Whatever. We try our best to stay within 15 minutes, but it never works. So until next time, guys, see you next week.
Next week.